Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I'm your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or weight gain around the middle that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it feels like nothing is working. You're putting in all this effort and it feels like you're moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, I have 4 of my fantastic coaches on the podcast with me today, and we are going to be tackling a topic that we did with our clients, which was a huge success, so many light bulb moments, and we wanted to kind of recreate that for you. So we want to be talking about the truth about your dream body and what that really looks like, what it takes to achieve that, our personal journeys with that, our hormone journeys with that as well. And in a couple months ago, we had actually asked in our client community chat, we asked them, hey, send your coach a picture of what you want to look like an ideal physique, because sometimes we describe what we want to look like, right? Or we say, oh, I want to look more toned, but what does it actually look like to you? Because everyone has a different version of what that really looks like. Or you have like a scale weight that you want to achieve, but sometimes that scale weight doesn't match what you want to look like when you send a picture. So we got our clients to send us pictures, and we got back so many. And it was really inspiring for us coaches. We want to have like this in-depth conversation with everyone about what the dream body might realistically look like, what it might actually take to achieve that, considerations, especially during perimenopause and menopause and hormones. And it was really good and very eye-opening for a lot of people. And we don't want to be Debbie Downers here, right? We don't want to make you feel like that dream body isn't achievable, because really anything is possible. However, right, there's always a caveat to things. Some physiques are going to take a little bit more time to achieve than others. And we saw like a huge trend of negative self-talk when some of the women were comparing themselves to the pictures with their current selves or where they wanted to be. So it's really important for us as coaches to be, really realistic with what's achievable. And I think there is a lot of stuff shown on social media that isn't necessarily helpful, and it makes you feel like you're failing because you're not getting there as quickly and things like that. When the people that you're aspiring to be, like the things they have done to get there, it's been years and years and years, and maybe they have different chronic conditions and things like that, right? So we want to help you and encourage you and really set you up for success and help you get to where you want to be, but make sure it's realistic and doable and like what that really looks like. So in general, with any kind of like dream body we're aiming towards or using for inspiration, there's a lot of things that we need to consider. So Kariana, I will let you kind of take that away in terms of like, what are the things that we need to consider when we are, working towards any kind of like ideal body, or like we have this picture of inspiration that we want to achieve?
Okay, so the first thing that we must consider is how much this dream body probably weighs. Now, you might have a picture or have, social media is very popular. We got TikTok, we got Instagram. You may have seen some social media pictures or accounts of women who are super lean, super muscular, super fit, say, hey, this is what I want to look like. And while they may look really lean and very tiny, chances are, if you actually guessed their weight, you'd probably be wrong. I am frequently wrong about this when we actually guess weights of people who look very fit and lean and small, quote unquote small, right? You'd probably be way under if you were guessing. And that's because, honestly, society has brought us up to believe that lean and fit and small people inherently weigh very little, which is actually not the case. Because the physique that you think that you want probably weighs more than you actually think it does. Because muscle is significantly more dense than fat. So therefore, yes, a pound of muscle, a pound of fat, they both weigh the exact same. but muscle takes up significantly less space than fat does. So if you want to gain muscle, but you want to lose fat, it's actually really realistic for you to not expect that number on the scale to go down super drastically, because the number on the scale doesn't account for body fat percentages. Now, within your health journey, it is super important to acknowledge that the number on the scale might even be actually holding you back from your dream body, because we associate body fat percentage going down with the number on the scale going down. But that's actually not always the case, especially if your dream body has significantly more muscle than you probably have now. And if we're building muscle at the same time that we are losing fat, it's actually expected that your weight actually might stay similar or even go up a little. And we have to acknowledge that it's not fat. That number on the scale doesn't mean everything. And also important to remember that muscular women, like female bodybuilders, for example, are actually considered quote unquote obese on what we call the BMI scale, which I'm sure everyone has heard of because your doctor will do it and like tell you something about it and tell you your number and what it means. But you know, those female bodybuilders who are considered obese on the BMI scale, because it's just a simple equation between height and weight that actually doesn't mean anything about health, they actually have a very low body fat percentage. So if you're looking at someone who has a lot of muscle and they're like, yeah, my doctor told me that on the scale I was morbidly obese, and you're looking at them and you're like, this lady is so fit and has significantly less body fat than I do. How is that possible? That's just because, again, the number on the scale really doesn't tell us the whole story about how much muscle that you've gained, how much fat that you've lost at the same time. We can all attest to the fact that we have a number of clients. I specifically have one client that I'm thinking of right now who actually weighs more than when she came in, and her initial goal coming into the coaching was to lose like 20 pounds. And when you look at her pictures, she's literally half the size that she was before, because she has done such an amazing job of gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time. Like, all of her clothes fit differently. She had to go buy a new wardrobe. And yet here she is actually weighing more than when she came in, but she just has so much less body fat now and so much more muscle, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And like from the day that we're recording this, because obviously this is going to come out later, I posted yesterday, actually, like my body. I am posting pictures every 4 weeks of my journey. So far, I have gained 3 pounds, and I am like, if you look at the pictures, the inflammation and the fluid retention and fat around my stomach has drastically decreased. And I really haven't done anything extreme. The weight has gone up on the scale, but like, if you look at the pictures, I've lost quite a few inches already, which is fantastic. But the thing is too, like, I'm not panicking that the scale went up and cutting calories. I'm actually increasing my calories a little bit. I'm working on consistency. I'm actually not changing anything for 7 weeks. So this is where understanding that like the scale just gives you a single moment in time. The body that you want likely weighs a little bit heavier than you think it does, because the body that you want, most women send us pictures of like, you know, women that have like muscle tone, their arms are defined, they've got bigger bums, right? Like that requires muscle mass, and muscle mass, like Ariana said, is very dense. So you're likely going to be like that dream body likely weighs more than you think. Like all of us will talk about this and our journeys in a little bit here of like when we looked our best, what was our weight? Because you will be so surprised. So Beth, I will let you take it away with the next thing that we really need to consider when we're, you know, focusing on this ideal body and like chasing this ideal.
So the next thing that is super important to know is timelines are going to be longer than you think. Okay, many dream physiques tend to lift heavy or exercise consistently and eat very consistently for long periods of time in order to reach the physique they have. So just note, right, this is not something achieved in 6, 12, or even 18 months for most people. We're changing your lifestyle, right? This is a lifestyle that is consistently maintained for years. That's super important to note. This isn't just a period of time in your journey, right? This is the rest of your life, okay? And then delayed gratification. So most people's dream physiques make long-term sacrifices in order to achieve and maintain what they have. Obviously not to say, right, it's not possible to have your cake and eat it too, right? Like have the physique you want and eat the things you want, not have to be uber disciplined 24/7. That's totally doable. But getting to that lifestyle takes time and dedication. We do have to experience long periods of sacrifice in order to achieve a state of balance, right? We are impatient. It is what it is. We usually expect that we can cruise through some tracking, hit the gym for a few months, and that's how easy it is.
And like the thing with the delayed gratification is like in this day and age, like even when I think from when I was a kid to where I am now, the things that I have to wait for don't even exist anymore. Commercials, not a thing, right? Or you PVR stuff and you fast forward. Like you don't even have to wait through a commercial anymore. For, like when I was a kid, I remember like swiping through like the Sears catalog, and like you would like look through all the toys and stuff and then you'd circle what you wanted and then your mom would order it for you and then you'd have to wait. Like you would wait so long for stuff to come in, and now it's like I get mad if I order something off Amazon and it's not Amazon Prime. Right? I can't get it in 2 days. Like we're so used to like getting stuff now that now it's like, what do you mean? I can't just eat healthy for 3 weeks and all of a sudden lose 10 pounds and look like so-and-so that I follow on Instagram. That's not fair. That's not how it's supposed to work. But the people that you're like aspiring to, like they have been working out likely for a long time. They likely haven't dieted a bunch either. Like they've been focusing on consistency. Like if you look at anyone who has any kind of muscle tone, they've been working out for probably a couple years. That doesn't mean you can't get to where you want to be and like start looking and seeing changes sooner than that. But getting to like, oh man, like I'm 6 months in, I don't look like the picture yet. No, of course you don't. Muscle takes time. Like you won't gain a pound of muscle in a month. Like unless you are a super, super newbie exerciser who has never touched a weight in their life, maybe. But if you got hormone issues going on and you've dabbled in weights before, putting on muscle mass, you're not going to gain a pound of muscle in a month. Like it's going to take time. Losing fat is going to take time. So this is where like you have to be prepared with yourself that this might not happen as quickly as I want. So you need to be okay with the delayed gratification. This is an Amazon Prime. This is the Sears catalog situation. Okay.
Okay. So the next thing that we like to talk to our clients about is considering how much you actually need to work out, how much you probably need to eat more, and how long that's actually going to take in order to achieve this. So it's really important to remember that when you see these people on social media and you see, these dream bodies, it takes a lot of time and it takes years. It usually takes people years of dedication and consistency and a lot of really hard work in the gym to build these dream physiques. It also takes long periods of eating either at maintenance or even some people would eat in a surplus. So you eat more than what your maintenance is to gain that muscle. And it takes a long time of not being on a diet and not being in fat loss mode in order to actually build muscle and build these dream physiques. And that's even when you're younger, let alone in menopause or when you're older and you've had several years of dieting and stress and like hormonal imbalances potentially that you need to actually contend with along the way. So just understanding that it takes so long and so much longer than you might think. And we talk to a lot of our clients about, I think we actually drastically overestimate what we can do in 6 months to 1 year, but then we drastically underestimate or don't even consider, well, where do I want to be in 5 years? Because that's actually the more important question than you being here in 6 months from now, achieving this really, ambitious goal versus you actually being able to make this a lifestyle and a permanent change and you taking the time to actually build the muscle and the foundational base that you need in 5 years from now in order to achieve what you actually want to achieve down the road with that physique.
So the next thing we want to think about is a permanent identity change. And this is because the people who achieved dream physiques or who have transformed or have some sort of transformation story are typically a completely different person than they were before they achieved this transformation, this goal, this body. The identity that we have about our quote unquote new selves, for example, like healthy me or lean, mean, muscle machine me or like lifter me, whatever it is going to be a different person and a different identity than we have now. And they're going to have different values than your old self. So for example, if you are currently not putting yourself first or you want to lose 10 pounds in 30 days. These are not values that the you that you want to become with this transformation, excuse me, will hold. And so that really means that shifting values has to happen. And so does shifting priorities, shifting our habits, and even food choices and palate may be completely different. This makes me think so many people are like, I don't like this food. I hate this. I don't like this. I'm like, all right, well, now you've been eating this far more nutrient dense diet for the last 6 months. Why don't you try this thing? And they're like, oh my gosh, it tastes so good, because you've fully changed your palate. And also, like, your identity is shifting along the way as well. And this is something that has to be a permanent identity shift. So really, like, focusing on this in your mind of like, you are not going to be the same person 6 months from now with this transformation, with the goal of this dream physique that you are today.
And I think really understanding that is super key. I talked about this on the group coaching call last night, actually, where if you are very clear on what your values are, your decisions are very easy, and the values of the person that you are now versus the person who achieves those things is very different. Your values are going to be different. Your day-to-day is going to be different. So what I actually encourage women to do is like, what does your ideal day look like as the person who has achieved whatever result it is that you're looking for? That person probably isn't watching hours of Netflix every night. They probably aren't sitting there having chips, like a bag of chips a night, right? Like, what does that ideal person look like? How do they act? How do they feel? How do they talk? So it's like, you wake up in the morning. Are you pressing snooze? Yes or no? Probably not, because you probably have better energy, right? When you are, what are your breakfast choices? Are you doing some sort of pre-planning? Are you doing some sort of routine, bedtime routine, whatever that looks like? Like, what does that person do? How do you speak to yourself? How do you show up for your family? What are your hobbies? What are the things that you do together with your friends and family? What are the kind of things that you order at restaurants? Like, how do you show up? Because like, until you can envision what that person looks like, you're just like randomly doing stuff, hoping that it like sticks. And it's like, you have to have a very clear vision of what does that look like? Like, think of like any business owner, anyone that's like a higher up CEO, like they're not just like, oh, I wake up and like, just figure it out, right? And hope that I like do well. Like, no, that doesn't happen, right? There is some sort of plan. Look at elite athletes. Like, you never see an elite athlete who is approaching things as like a rec beer league athlete, right? Like, that's very different. What the routines look like, how they speak, how they eat, what they do, their daily routines, when they go to sleep, right? So you have to envision yourself as this new ideal person and slowly start like acting like that person already. Because if you are hoping to lose weight and then maintain it, like an elite athlete isn't going to remain an elite athlete if they just like finish the season and then go back to being what they were doing as like a beer league athlete, right? That doesn't work. You don't maintain that same physique and achievements and all that stuff, right? So you really have to put yourself in those shoes. Imagine what that person is like. What does that day look like? How do you act? What are the things that you do? What do you read? What do you watch? How do you eat? How do you prepare? All these things. And then start doing those, because otherwise you will never, ever, ever, ever get there or maintain it. So that's a really big thing that you need to realize.
The next thing we need to realize is this is real life, right? So photos of these dream physiques can sometimes be unrealistic, as the person in the photo probably doesn't even look like that 24/7 in their normal life anyways. So many people spend years and years and months and do crazy things to get ready for these photo shoots, right? And then they have their photos and then they just go back to their daily living because nobody can sustain that. And then if you saw them just walking around on a Tuesday, they don't look like that, right? So that's something you really need to pay attention to. So take your dream physique photos or ideals with a grain of salt, because photos are usually the best version. People prepare so long. They hire so many coaches. They have so much makeup and hair and all the shebang, right? For these photos, take those with a grain of salt. And then editing is a thing. Lighting is a thing. Social media is a thing. Filters are a thing, right? We know this in this age, but sometimes it's still, when we're looking on Instagram, we're looking on TikTok, whatever we're looking on, it's still hard for us to see like, hey, that's probably not real. Like there's still a part of us that is like, I can do that. I want to be able to do that. Why can't I have that? So you just have to keep that, like something that you would tell a teenage daughter, right? If she's looking at those photos, like that person doesn't look like that, right? So just knowing that for yourself as well, it's going to be very important.
I mean, think of like, I always tell this story. I think it's so funny. Like the way people contort their bodies when they're taking pictures, especially like fitness professionals. I like tried to get someone to show me once. So I was like, hey, like, let's see like how crazy I can like look differently. I couldn't even get in the position. I got a cramp in my back because like the twisting and stuff was so insane. Like it hurt so much. I'm like, so this is not normal life. Like you guys have to realize that. And yeah, the editing thing, the lighting is the thing, the filters are the thing, like the way you twist your body. There are so many ways to look different. I mean, I have like quote unquote idols that like I really liked or like people that I looked up to, then met them in person. And they like act really different. They look really different. When you see them with and without makeup, you're like, don't even recognize them. Like just so like you guys have to realize that. And again, most people in pictures look very different, right? Than they do in real life. So they take a lot of extra effort and multiple takes, right? They pick the best one, things like that. So always just keep that in mind when you're like looking at things. And the thing that I always laugh at is like, you know, those stupid morning routine videos where it's like, oh, I woke up and I did this. And I'm like, listen here, lady. No one wakes up with their hair looking like that, their makeup like that. Like it's all a sham. I look ridiculous. Like if I shower the night before and sleep on wet hair, Medusa, it is wild. But like you don't see me sharing that. It's scary. You guys would stop following me. It's terrifying. So remember those things. And then one other thing too is like your posture. Posture makes a huge difference in how your body looks, in how you feel, all of those things. So honestly, like think about how you're standing in pictures or like how your posture naturally is. Doing exercises to help improve your posture will naturally help how you look in photos and stuff like that as well. So remember that when you're like looking at things on social media. Okay, so now if your dream body or like that dream picture is somebody else, it's not you X amount of time before, right? We're looking at someone completely different, right? There are a lot of things that you need to consider. Like really, really, really need to consider. Because there's genetics, right? So there are specific body types that might carry more muscle more easily, right? Or distribute fat more differently than others. And so you might not always look exactly the same as you, right? So if you're the type of person with like shorter arms and legs, you're not going to look like a Victoria's Secret model who's super tall, very long limbs, right? No matter how hard you work, because that's not how your body is built, right? Or the way you naturally store fat. We all store fat in our bodies very differently. So for myself, I'm always a little bit sad because I've always had really little boobs, which now after going through pregnancy and stuff, I'm very thankful for my little boobs and I like them to stay this way. But I always thought it was what I wanted, right? And then I was like, this is too much of a burden for me. So I've changed my stance on the boob situation. You always want what you don't have, right? And then you get it and you're like, oh, you know what? Life was better before. So there's that. But for myself, like I tend to naturally store fat like in my belly. If I gain weight, that's where it is. It literally doesn't go anywhere else. Doesn't go to my legs, doesn't go to my arms, doesn't go to my face, doesn't go to my boobs. It goes to my belly. Last place I lose fat is my belly. I will lose it from my boobs first, which is a former really sad small boob person. Now I'm like, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I can wear cute bikinis. I'm not worried about falling out. We're great. So that's how I store fat. I also am a person who naturally can put on muscle decently easily. But I also gain fat super quick. For me to get quite lean is actually really hard. I have had like quote unquote abs once in my life. I gave up cheese. It was very sad. I ate like very, very strictly because my body naturally likes to hold on to fluid retention. So I always kind of have this like slight layer of like belly fat or a little bit of inflammation on my body. This is because progesterone just doesn't love to stick around with me, unfortunately. So it's something I always kind of struggled with since I was younger, and like kind of self-conscious of. So for me to get really lean is really, really hard. So if I look at other people, I'm not going to have a super, super lean body. I've always been a little bit more muscular or quote unquote masculine. That's been pointed out to me since I was young, which like didn't love. It affected me a lot. It didn't feel very feminine. But like I've always been a little bit more stocky because I'm short. I'm only 5'5". So I am a short person. I have a very short torso, very long legs. So for me, if I gain weight in my belly, it shows very easily because my torso, like I literally have 2 inches between my ribs and the top of my hips. Like I don't know how my son fit inside me. It was very uncomfortable, but I don't have a big torso. So when I gain weight, it's very obvious. Other people are a little bit different. So coaches, before we dive more into this, like how does your body hold on to fat? And like talk a little bit about your body proportions and how you put on muscles. I think that's always a nice thing to talk about because we're all very different physiques, for sure. So Hannah, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so I actually love this because it's so interesting to think about with how different every single person's body is. But for me, I hold body fat even like when I'm at my leanest, like the inside of my legs and like underneath my butt, which I actually have recently learned is something that we need to have babies. So that's pretty cool. Like there's something about the fat around that area of our body that allows us to have babies that are healthy. Very interesting. But then if I'm even like pretty lean, like you'll see like the bottom of my stomach, I have some body fat there. And then also like my armpit area, people hate that like pour over part of your like tank tops or sports bras. And I also used to hate that, but I'm like, it's just not going to go anywhere. It's there to stay on the front, on the back, like it's fine. Usually it means that, like, especially on the back side, like usually it means that I've got some good lats going on because they just can't stay in my sports bra. But those are definitely the places that I retain most of my body fat, even if I am like more lean.
And then long legs, short legs, torso, what's your proportions kind of like?
Right. So I'm 5'9", and my hips are really high. I wouldn't say that like my legs are particularly super long, but my hips are very high. So like pants that fit a normal person who's 5'9" probably have to be like pulled up really high on my hips than are too short on my ankles. So that is like my proportion change. So like often my butt looks really flat in comparison to somebody who's the same height as me because they can wear their pants a little bit lower because their hips are a little bit lower.
Okay, Beth, I'll let you take it away next.
Oh gosh, yeah. So if I'm going to, I almost have the exact opposite problem, which like, as Steph was saying, sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. Like so many people are probably like, oh my God, I love your problems, right? But I don't know, there's still problems, right? So, so like if I were to gain fat, like typically like right around the stomach is where I'm going to gain it, right? My issue is it's extremely hard for me to gain weight, right? I really have to put in a lot of work. I'm very active. So it's like a lot of eating, like it's a second job. You know what I mean? I eat all day. So I actually need to go out, get a snack right now. Just kidding. But that's what happens. There's a ton of eating that goes into that, right? And then, which as some of you guys know, you're like, oh my God, I would love to eat more. But then we put you in phase 1 and you're like, this is horrid. Yeah, it is horrid, right? It takes a lot of work to be able to get in that many calories. But yeah, that's where I would put on fat. And then I'm 5'8", but I think like 5'6" of me is leg, right? And then I've got like a 2-inch body on top of that. But my legs are so long and my arms are super long. And then my torso is not that long at all. So it's just, it's a combination, but it makes it so that, with all of that lean muscle, right, makes it hard to put on weight. So that's something that I really have to work for. Put on muscle, it's something I really, really have to work for if I want it. And if it was just me, I would just turn into a stick bug.
And then I think this is very interesting. So Beth, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? And then how much are you eating right now?
5'8", 137. That's a slim 5'8", guys. That's a slim 5'8". And I eat 3,000 to 3,200 calories a day.
So when Beth says that she has a hard time putting on muscle, she has a very hard time putting on muscle because like she has to eat a lot just to maintain 137. So like that's a big challenge. And then Hannah, I don't know if we touched on you. Is it hard for you to put on muscle? And then how tall are you? How much do you weigh? And then how much are you eating?
I was actually just going to chime in and say, to put this into perspective, I'm 5'9" and I'm 186 pounds. So there's a difference there in like our weight. Putting muscle on is easier for me than like losing body fat. I think for me, like training really hard allows me to build a leaner body versus like bringing calories down, because at my leanest, like I didn't really have to drop calories very much at that point. It was only like 400 or 500 calories less than my maintenance. But right now I'm not training nearly as much. And so I definitely have more body fat than I did then, despite eating less.
And then how many calories are you eating right now?
I'm not tracking right now, but if I were tracking, it's probably somewhere like, and it's different every day. It's somewhere between like 2,400 and 2,700.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Yeah. So I'm 5'5". I'm now 140 pounds and I am eating right now. I'm at like 2,100 the day that we're like, recording this. I am working back up to my regular 2,200 to 2,400. But yeah, so I eat a lot and I'm a short person. So, but I also put on muscle quite easily, and I am trying to put on muscle right now. So I'm probably gonna have to go up to like 2,600, which is gonna be a crap ton of food, but that's okay. We're gonna incorporate a little bit more cheese. That's my favorite anyways. And then Kariana, what about you?
Okay, I'm really embarrassed to admit this, but genetically speaking, I was not supposed to be a fit person, like at all. I've never admitted this before, so like guys don't laugh at me, but when I was a kid, I had such little upper body strength, just genetically speaking, that I couldn't even do monkey bars. I have never done monkey bars in my life, you guys. Never. I can't. Like, I have no upper body strength naturally. So genetically speaking, so I'm tall. This Tall Coach podcast today. I'm 5'8", 5'9" as well. Like I'm like right in the middle. I do not gain muscle very easily at all. I take after my dad. He's very, very lean, very small, like very like what you would consider like sinewy, like very like lean muscle. I have like very bony features, like very bony feet, very, very bony hands. I do not gain muscle at all. Lose muscle very easily, like very, very, very easily. I do gain fat very easily as well though. So genetically speaking, I'm just like a big noodle, unfortunately. It's again, like guys, I don't think I'm genetically meant to be a fit person. Like I'm just like, I'm a gatherer. I'm not a hunter. Okay. So just genetically speaking. So yeah, I do not gain muscle very easily at all, but I do gain fat. And then genetically speaking, my body type, I think what you would consider like hourglass shape. I have very wide shoulders. Like my bones are small, but they're very large. I'm like a hanger. I'm like a coat hanger. And so my shoulders are very wide and they have the tiniest waist, but then I also hold like all my fat in my lower belly and like my love handles. So I guess it looks nice for some people, but of course I grew up like hating my body type and my hips and my love handles. I'm totally fine with them now, but yes, I swear to God, Steph, you guys would be amazed. Beth is probably much leaner than me. I remember last time we were at a conference, Beth is smaller than me. We're like the same height. I am, as of right now, under 130 pounds. And like, she's smaller than me because she just has so much more muscle that she's worked for. I just have a very hard time keeping and holding on to this muscle that I am not genetically gifted to have. So I hope someone takes that and feels better about themselves.
And then how many calories on average do you think you're eating?
I naturally eat about like 2,000 to 2,200. So I'm a little bit on the lower end of the spectrum, just intuitively speaking. I have never in my life been able to go over 2,400 without gaining like significant amounts of body fat. So I usually sit around that 2,000 to 2,300 as like a maintenance. But again, that's like for me to hold on to like every ounce of muscle that I have in my body.
So like that should like show you guys, like we are all, I mean, with the exception of me, I'm short. Everybody else is around the same height and like vastly different in the way that they look, how much muscle they have, how much they have to eat. So we're all very different. So this should like show you like, okay, like we are all like, if Beth is smaller than Cariana, but Cariana weighs less, like make, like, you know what I mean? Like, so that in itself should tell you a lot. And Cariana, next conference we go to, we're going to a park and we're going to do monkey bars and we're going to film it and we are going to celebrate.
Okay, you know, the one time I tried, I specifically remember this because it's like the trauma that has come from it. I tried to grab the monkey bars, and I also want to preface this by saying I was not a skinny kid. Like I grew up like I was like the fat kid. Anyway, I tried to grab the monkey bars, but I took a running, like swinging jump at it, and I completely lost my grip. And like literally next thing I knew, I was just on the ground. So that's the only monkey bar experience I have. Is super. I still remember it clear as day. It's there.
Wild. And I also have a hourglassy type figure, but my shoulders are like, when I say I cannot wear a strapless dress, like, or strapless tops, like I look like a linebacker. I really do. My shoulders, because I don't have like the thin bone structure like Cariana has. Like I'm stockier. So I have to be, you know, aware of that as well. Okay. So now that we went off topic and shared all our stories a little bit here, we're going to dive back into like things you need to consider for your dream ideal body. So that in itself, though, like that example should show you that like, okay, like everyone's going to be different. So you need to figure out how to get there. Is going to be very specific to you and your body and your history and all those things. So Beth, take it away with lifestyle.
All right. So lifestyle is going to be very important here because we have zero idea what someone does in their own lives to achieve their dream body. A lot of people with crazy good physiques have ample time, right? That might just be their job. Their job is to have this crazy good physique. Accountability, discipline, dedication to what they're doing. This can typically involve eating super low calories, spending years building muscle, eating plain foods on repeat, or possibly, and this is probably a lot of it, lying on social media about what their usual routine is. This is so much of it, guys. It's so much. Social media is so much this problem. So keep in mind, you never really know how someone else is living their life in order to get to where they are now. Everybody's got different lifestyles. Some people, they can stay home and do their thing and eat their foods, right? And some of us can't do that, right? We have a job and there's just so many other things involved. And the people that are eating super low calorie and have a six-pack year round, they're probably not very happy. They're probably not very happy and they're putting on that face, right, for social media. I can't talk for all of them. There might be one, but most of them probably unhappy.
Well, the thing you got to think about too here is like with the eating low calories, now everyone's gonna be like, oh, I need to eat really low calorie. No. The amount of physique competitors that we have worked with and that I know work with other coaches because their body is ruined from trying to stay that lean for so long and thinking that's sustainable, have destroyed their hormones, have destroyed their metabolism, and are struggling. They've gained a lot of weight and are struggling to get back to a healthy place and to a place where their body will even respond to a diet. So I know lots of people are like, well, my diets aren't working anymore. You're in that same situation where, you know, you've done extreme stuff and now your body just doesn't respond anymore. So it's not us saying to get to that ideal physique, drop your calories really low, because that might work the first time, maybe the second time, but we know you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if, you know, the diets were still working, right? So we know that's not sustainable. It's not working. It's not going to work. So we need to, again, focus on that too. Cariana, now what if your dream body's in the past?
Yeah. Okay. So we get this a lot where that challenge that Steph did for all of our Ladies of Vitality, all of our clients, we had a lot of clients that sent us pictures of them like younger versions of themselves. They're like, okay, well, here is what my dream body is. It was me like 15 years ago. And that's great, first and foremost, but we also have to take a step back and we have to ask ourselves a couple questions about the picture that we are looking at that was our past self. Now, the first thing that I always ask my clients when they send me pictures of their past selves is, what were you doing at the time of this specific physique, at the time of this specific body? Was it healthy? Was it sustainable? 99% of the time, it wasn't. 99% of the time, this was the lowest possible weight they've ever gotten to for like 2 weeks of their life. They were eating 1,000 calories or under that, and they were doing like extreme amounts of cardio, and they were feeling miserable and not sleeping and super unhappy. And there were all these other things, or like they were super stressed and their body was trying to deal with the stress, and their body was literally just in survival mode. So we do have to realistically ask ourselves, was this past self that I'm looking at actually a time that I was happy and healthy? And was this sustainable? Or did I stay here for a month and then my body like completely went out of control and rebelled against me, and now I'm back in the same spot because of this actual time that now I'm looking back on being like, oh, this is what I want to look like now, but somehow do it in like a very healthy way, which is very possible. However, we also have to just be realistic with the fact that sometimes we blindly look at our past selves and convince ourselves that that was a much better time in our life. But then when we actually sit back and think about what it was like and what we were doing, we logically start to realize that maybe it wasn't the most sustainable or wasn't the most healthy experience, and we weren't really treating our bodies very well at the time.
And the next thing to consider with that is how long ago it was, right? Was that past photo a photo of you at 20 years old? Was how much stress, life changes, yo-yo diets have you been on since that time? Have you had kids? What's your body been through, right? Because we expect our bodies, we don't expect that 20-year-old body our entire lives, right? You're supposed to change. And it's a good look when you change. Trust me, if you look 20 and you're 60, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, right? We want you to change. And you should want to change too. You shouldn't want that same body, right? Because what, do you have like kids now? Are we in a different job? Are you loving where you are? Have you moved? You have all of these life experiences that you're showing for it. That's not a bad thing. Sure, we can improve upon some of those, right? But we also want to look your age in the best way that we can, right?
Yeah, we also want to use this opportunity to gain some insight for yourself. So really, like Karen was talking about, think about what you were doing at the time of the picture. What habits were you doing that you might not be doing now? Can we start to incorporate those habits again? Were you doing some more weekend exercise? Were you playing in a rec sports league? Were you doing more things that brought you joy? Did you have more time in your calendar for doing things for yourself over doing things for other people, right? So we want to remember all of these like positive things that we may have been doing at the time, but also on the other hand, were you restricting calories? Were you restricting whole food groups? Were you eating very low calories? Because this is not what we want. If this photo is at a time where those were the things that you were doing, we do not want to go back to a place where we are cutting food groups or really slashing calories, because above all else, what we want is a healthy body. In pursuit of achieving this dream body, it has to be healthy in order to be sustainable. And so it's essential to consider all things. Was it a positive place? Was it a not so positive place? And where do we find more and more space in this pursuit of a dream body for those positive habits and things that make us feel good?
Well, I think that's something people forget. They're like, oh, like I was happier then. I'm like, were you though? Like realistically, were you happy? Because sure, maybe you were happier then, but it wasn't because of your body. It was because you were making more time for you. You were maybe more active and going for more walks. Maybe you had more freedom, right? Like you didn't have kids. Maybe you weren't married. So you had more time to go to the gym. Like I went to the gym because quite frankly, I don't have a lot of friends. I'm going to be totally blunt and honest with you guys. Not a ton. Like my gym bros were like the people I would talk to and get advice from, because I didn't have a ton of friends growing up. So for me, it's like, yeah, I went to the gym lots because that was my social life. That was where I talked to people where I wasn't lonely. That's like completely the truth. So it's like, when I think of like the times that I was my leanest, like the things that I was doing, it's like I was doing things that I would never do now. Like, like I was working out like 6 days a week. I have a baby. I'm not freaking working out for 2 hours a day, like 6 days a week. Are you joking? Like, no. I also was just meal prepping for myself. I wasn't like also with Taylor, who loves candy. I love him, and it's not his fault because I choose to have the candy if it's on the counter, right? So that's not me pointing blame. I'm making the choice, but my environment was very different, So you have to think about like, what were you doing? Is it realistic for you now? Do you even want that again? Like, what are you willing to actually sacrifice or not? Like, you have to think about all these things. And usually when you were quote unquote happier, it wasn't because of the way you looked. It's because of your lifestyle. You were making time for you. You were prioritizing those things. Maybe you were reading. Maybe you were doing gratitude. Maybe you were listening to podcasts. You could have a shower until the water went cold and no one would interrupt you, right? Like there's all these things. And when you're in a better place mentally and taking care of yourself those ways, your physique will change. So you need to figure out what are things that I was doing then that I'm not doing now that I can start doing. Because when you're happier, it's easier to eat healthy. When you're in a bad mood, tell me you want to eat a salad. No, like you want greasy fried foods to make yourself feel better, right? If you are in a good mood, it's a lot easier to meal prep. It's a lot easier to have fruits and veggies. It's a lot easier to go for that walk. If I'm in a bad mood, I want to sit on the couch and like scarf down some itchy band noodles that have zero nutritional value, very high calorie, and I don't want to do anything, right? So start doing things that are good for you because you will find it's easier to do the other things. The other thing too is like, for those of you who want to get extremely lean, please keep in mind that a six-pack may not be healthy or even sustainable / possible for many of us. For me, I will probably never have a six-pack again, and I am fine with that because I like cheese. I'm going to be honest, and cheese is high in calories, right? And I'm not willing to give that up just to get a six-pack for a stupid picture to promote on social media. I'm not. I'm not going to do it. It's just not who I am. So, and it would be so restrictive. I'd probably be super exhausted as well. Like it's not worth it. So ask yourself, why do you want the six pack? Because usually it's more like, okay, I want to be more fit. I want to be more confident. Like, why is that important kind of thing? So keep that in mind because like for someone who's like more lean, like naturally much easier. For myself, no torso with a body that likes to hold belly fat. Like I have to get so lean and I just don't care for it. I'm going to be honest. It's fine. Okay. So Hannah, take it away with some other things that we can start doing to help get closer to that ideal body.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the power of small changes, but first I just want to touch on the six-pack and being extremely lean thing. I have a lot of friends who are bodybuilders and in that world, and even they who compete and get on stage and have the leanest of lean six-packs are not lean like that all year long. It does not last for a very long period of time. And some of them take over a year between getting to that super lean point because it is not sustainable and it is not healthy to do so for most of us for an extended period of time. So even if your dream body is to get extremely lean and like have those six-pack abs, you're probably not going to be able to maintain it for a long period because it's just not healthy. Anyway, the power of small changes. Small changes over a long period of time are far more significantly sustainable than big drastic changes over a short period of time, which is far more likely to fail anyway. So that 1% that you're aiming to do better each day, everyone is going to have compound interest. Every single 1% has compound interest in your life. As humans, we think and we live very short term, and we tend to overestimate what we want and can do in 1 year, but underestimate or don't even consider the potential for what we can do and achieve in 5 years.
All right. So the next thing we're going to touch on is using the right metrics for your goals. So we have to know what is important when it comes to your health journey and achieving that dream physique. You send a picture to your coach of, or maybe you just have a photo of, because of course it's not the number on the scale most of the time.
Okay, so the most accurate thing that we need to do is we need to take some pictures. This is going to be for 90% of people the best way that we can actually start seeing these changes that we're looking for outside of that number on the scale potentially telling us the wrong thing, or even the way that some clothes are fitting, because a lot of the times the clothes all stretch nowadays. So it's very hard to tell sometimes. So pictures are going to be one of the best ways that we can start to look at what is progress, what kind of progress is happening in my body. We want front pictures, we want side pictures, we want back pictures at the very least, and we always want them to be in the same outfit. I think it's really important for us to remember that we need to control as many variables as we can when it comes to assessing progress, because, Steph, you've done a podcast on this before. There's so many things that affect the number on the scale, affect the way that your body looks, affect the way that things change from day to day, and those are all very acute things. So we need to be able to control those things as much as possible. The way your clothes fit is going to make your body look completely different as well. So making sure that we are taking our pictures in the morning, after we wake up, after we, go pee, before we eat or drink anything, and making sure that we're trying to wear the exact same outfit for our pictures every time, take our pictures in the same spot every time with good lighting. I think those are the best ways that we can see some accurate changes. There are so many situations that all of us can attest to as coaches where clients think that things haven't changed. Again, the number on the scale doesn't always tell us the most accurate picture, of like what is going on, the most accurate story about what kind of progress is happening. And then that's when we go back and we can look at those before and after pictures and realize how much of a drastic difference in body composition there has been. And let's face it, at the end of the day, no one is walking around hoping that they look the same, but the number on the scale is different, versus the opposite, where we shouldn't care what the number on the scale says as long as we're looking different and we're looking more toned and we're looking leaner and we're looking like you have more muscle, right? I think sometimes too, if you are aiming to build muscle, another little bonus that you can actually give yourself is to add in some photos of you doing a very specific flex. So sometimes you could do like a bicep flex or whatever that looks like, because considering muscle growth is a good thing for you as well, depending on what you want to specifically build. So a lot of people say, I want to build my shoulders or I want to build my glutes. Make sure you have some pictures that can help you look at what that growth actually might look like for you as well.
Yeah. And then also to caveat on that, like if you are having a regular cycle, try and take pictures at the same time as your cycle, because your hormones can change your fluid retention so much. So like probably don't take pictures when you're on your period or the week before. Try and do it somewhere in the 2 weeks after that, because you will see like more holding on to water and stuff like that. So weeks 1 and 3 are more likely to hold on to water. So I like to do mine actually the week after my period. I wait a couple of days once it's done and then take my photos, because then I know it's it's more consistent when you're comparing your photos. So you don't have that variation just because of like fluid retention from your hormones. So something else to consider.
The next metric that is really, really good is measurements. Okay. So ideally of the waist, hips, and thighs, at the very least, you could measure arms and legs, and you can measure all sorts of things if you wanted to, but the waist, hips, and thighs can show us a lot, especially with women, right? Because we tend to, if we're going to store fat, somewhere around the waist, hips, and thighs, right? So that can be a good measurement for us. So the same thing as the photos, right? In the morning, with your same clothes or no clothes, right? To get that most accurate measurement, right after you pee, before eating, right? Same variables as your photos, just do it with measurements. Another great thing that is not the scale that shows some awesome progress.
So the next is strength improvements. So getting stronger in the gym is a non-scale metric to definitely utilize to track these metrics, because more strength equals more muscle, and more muscle equals a faster metabolism at rest. And this is definitely something that we want to continuously aim for, especially because it is easier and easier to lose this potential as we get older. So the more we can gain strength as we're getting older, the better it is for us to achieve these dream bodies.
All right. So the next one that we want to be looking at are your energy levels. So feeling better, having a better or more stable mood, or even having just more energy in general really shows us these non-scale improvements in our inner health. And I think it's really important to remember that, first of all, a lot of you are probably struggling with your energy. Energy crashes are very common, or a lot of clients even come into the coaching with extremely low energy levels. They feel like they can't even really get through the day. And while that might not have a direct relationship right away on the number on the scale or your physique, you having more energy is going to have that compound interest long-term that we really, really want. So we want your body to be able to move more. We want you to feel motivated to go to the gym and motivated to go do things and motivated to get outside. And when you have the energy to do that, it's going to have those long-term benefits and that long-term gratification on your body and your overall health that we actually need and are looking for. Again, 5 years versus 1 year or 6 months. It's really important to remember that those energy levels being sustainable and very high for the rest of your life is a very important prediction of like your body composition and your overall health moving forward.
The next one is probably one of the most important ones. So everything that we're talking about is like end goal progress. How close are we getting to the end goal? Are you making progress? However, I talked about this on a podcast a little whiles ago, where you need to track your habits. Remember, we talked about becoming this new person, that ideal self. What do you do? How do you eat? Do you plan? How do you speak to yourself? What are the little things, right? Because you can keep measuring your scale weight every day, your circumferences, take pictures every day, but that's not going to tell us, are you doing the things that you need to do to get you to where you want to be? So tracking your habits is actually so crucial. We do this with our clients. We're doing every 2 weeks, we're doing a different habit type challenge to bring awareness to, are you actually doing the things that you need to do to move the needle? Are you actually being consistent in that? Because a lot of times we're like, oh, I feel like I'm working so hard and I'm not getting results. But are you doing the thing? I don't care how you feel. Like, I do care how you feel, but like you feel like you're putting in all this effort. You think that you're doing the things, but do you actually ever pause and look back and go, am I doing the things? Because it's a very black and white question. If you do the things, you'll get closer. If you feel and think that you're doing the things, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get results, right? If you feel like you are, you think that you are, it's are you or are you not? So track the things that are going to help you reach that goal. Are you drinking your water? Yes or no? Literally, like we print out a little habit tracker and they check it off and they send us pictures. So are you actually getting your water in? This week or these next 2 weeks with our clients, we're doing, are you getting veggies at lunch and dinner? Yes or no? Because it's like, oh, I feel like I'm eating more veggies. I don't care if you feel like you're getting more veggies. Are you getting more veggies? Yes or no? And it brings awareness of like, oh my gosh, I'm not being as consistent. And then if you are consistent, you can reward yourself, which is amazing and makes you motivated to want to keep doing the things. So for myself, I told myself, hey, if I'm going to, like if I actually go to the gym at a minimum 2 days per week for this whole next month, I'm going to treat myself to Lululemon. You know what? And I did it. And I was super proud of myself. So I went to Lululemon. I had gift cards. I bought myself some really nice green, like dark forest green leggings, which you're definitely going to see in reels because I love them so much. And then now I want to go to the gym because I want to wear my leggings, and it's just like, it keeps motivating me to want to go. The next thing that I'll end up tracking is something to do with like nutrition or things like that, right? Like, are you tracking your food, all of it? Reward yourself for doing that after X amount of time. If you're hitting your protein goals, if you did your meal planning, if you did some prepping, right? Like, reward yourself for the things that if you keep doing consistently are going to transform you into this new person that will then get you to that result. Don't just reward yourself when you get there. That sucks because it could take a really long time to get there. So you need to do something to motivate yourself. Give yourself some milestones. We're very big on celebrating all the small things. And when you reward yourself and you have that like the little carrot dangling and you get to have like a reward often, that's amazing. Maybe it's like you're going to treat yourself to a staycation or a massage, or you're actually going to go get your hair done and like spend a little bit more and treat yourself. Maybe it's your nails, or you want to like buy some new makeup or whatever it might be. Like it doesn't have to be these huge things. Maybe it's just like, hey, you're taking care of the kids. I'm having an afternoon to myself. Like, it could be as easy as that, right? Just do things that are going to help you want to keep doing the things, which will then help you get to the end goal. Because if you keep quitting, you're never going to get there. So you need something to keep you going because this journey is always way longer than you want it to be.
The next metric is clothes fitting better. This is typically with my clients when we're going through a fat loss phase or we're trying to build muscle. This is like one of the first things they say to me. Like, hey, my shirt, I haven't seen anything like with numbers, but my shirt is feeling better. I don't know what this is. Or like if we're trying to build muscle, they're like, okay, like my shoulders, my shirt and my shoulders, I can feel that, right? So this is an indication of changing body composition, which is what we want, right? That's the goal. That's typically one of the first ways that we can see it depending on the person. Not a bad thing, right? Not a bad thing if our clothes are getting tighter, like in the areas that we want muscle, and not a bad thing if they're getting a little looser in the areas we want to lose fat, right? That's what we're looking for. Even if numbers are not changing, this is a good sign.
Yeah, so the next is better sleep. So similar to how Steph was talking about tracking habits, this is also something that I recommend tracking because we can just think like, yeah, I think my sleep's better, but until we're actually tracking, it's pretty hard to know if it's truly improving. And it's very, very helpful to know how it's improving. And if it's not, what can we do to help it? But mood stabilization and decreased menopausal symptoms are also amazing metrics of progress because the better you feel with all of these things, that sleep, the mood, menopausal symptoms, the better your body is going to function and be able to achieve in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time.
So I kind of want to like summarize everything we kind of talked about here quick because I know like we get tangenty a little bit, you know? I always do, but then when I'm with the coaches, it's always a little bit more. So remember when you're looking at that ideal picture or ideal body that you're aiming for, remember that it probably weighs more than you think. It's going to take muscle mass, which takes time to put on. So you're going to have to realize this timeline is going to have to be longer, right? And it's going to take time, particularly if you're already in perimenopause or the years that follow. Building muscle has to be intentional. You have to eat enough food, eat enough protein, and actually resistance train. Just because you're holding weights doesn't mean it's resistance training. You actually have to challenge yourself. Like, go until you can't with the weight. Like, most of you are rowing with like 10-pound weights, 15-pound weights. I can guarantee you could bust out 30 reps minimum, right? So like, it's time to up those weights, okay? The timeline's going to be longer. You got to delay gratification. This isn't Amazon Prime. This is the Sears catalog that we talked about. You need to consider that like working out has to happen. It's going to be a permanent identity change. So like the person you are right now, you're not going to revert back to. You're not going to reach the athlete, like elite athlete status and maintain it if you're just going to keep reverting back to the beer league athlete, right? Remember that photos and videos can be super deceiving with all the editing and the photoshopping and the lighting and the body contorting and the makeup and the hair. It's all fake. So just remember that. And remember, like, genetics come to play, right? So how your body type is, find someone with a similar body type that you maybe want to emulate, because I'm never, ever going to look like Beth. Never, ever. Like, super not going to happen, literally ever. Like, our body types are very, very different. And then remember, like, you weren't happy in the past because of your weight. Can that contribute? Yes. But think about what you were doing every day. What actually brought you joy? Try and start doing those things because that'll get you closer. A six-pack is not realistic for most women, right? We naturally have more body fat. Like 20% body fat is healthy. You know, we're not supposed to be like 5-7% body fat. That is not healthy for a woman. Believe it or not, it's not a thing. Small changes will add up over time, and then make sure you're tracking things. So use pictures, use measurements, pay attention to your strength in the gym, your energy levels, your sleep, and then track your habits and reward yourself. That is probably the easiest way to actually keep going and get the results that you want. Because if every day you just wake up and you go, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, and you're focused on like the distance between, that's not going to be helpful for you and not good for your mindset. Focus on the little things and how consistent you are. Reward yourself for those things, and then you'll be there before you know it. Okay, so those are like the biggest things. We talked about like our different body types and how much we eat and things like that. I do want to briefly touch on when we got to our dream physique, what did that look like and what do we do to get there? Just so you guys kind of have an idea about that. For myself, it took a long time. Like I had been lifting weights already for like 3 years. And I was working out a decent amount, lifting quite heavy. But for me, like I had to drop my calories, but I couldn't go too low because if I drop my calories too low, I start gaining weight. Inflammation, fluid retention, hormones are not happy. So it took me a long time and multiple fat loss cycles that were shorter in order to get there. But I mean, when I was there, I was single. I could sleep in and get tons of sleep. I was in a career that I love, which I still am, but like I had a lot more free time. I owned a training studio and clinic. So like very easy for me to work out or like just work out after clients or work out with my staff, right? Like the environment made a difference. I was only meal prepping for myself. So I didn't have like temptation at home, right? So I had all these different things going on. Whereas like now it's like I have a baby. So sleep is like, right? Like I make sure I'm in bed by 9:30. Otherwise things are not going to go good for me. I have other people in the household and food preferences and choices to consider. Like there's other things and I will get more fit. I am going to get more strong. I am getting leaner, but like I'm not reaching for that physique that I used to have because I'm not that same person anymore. And I'm okay. I'm happier with the person that I am now. And if that person has a little bit more body fat on it, that's okay. Like I am much happier now, like married and with a baby and with the career that I have. And yeah, it's a little bit more sedentary of a career, but I'm happy. And like my happiness isn't going to come from having a six pack because life without cheese is not worth it. That's just my opinion. Okay, Hannah, how about you?
Okay, so I was my leanest and at the time what I would have considered like pretty freaking close to my dream physique just over 2 years ago. So like June 2022. And at the time I was in the gym 5 or 6 days a week. I was running my own business, so I was very stressed out all of the time. I was ignoring a lot of things and pretending like they were not problems. Just like being very ignorant to things. So realistically, I was just distracting myself with being in the gym, focusing on fitness and nutrition and like creating content surrounding that. And was it fun? Did I have fun? Absolutely. But in reality, like I'm so much happier now. I have more time to enjoy the things outside of the gym. And if I really want to be in the gym 6 days a week, I could, but I don't. And so I'm in the gym 3 or 4 days a week and I have a lot of fun when I go. Not that I wasn't having fun at the time. And I'm also having a lot more freedom with nutrition, even though when I was eating and like in that deficit period, I still would allow myself to eat things. But I was like very committed to not quote unquote cheating throughout it. Like I tracked every single thing. And now when I track, it's like I'll track for 1 to 3 weeks just to see where I'm at and what needs some attention. But pretty consistently, I've been in the same place every time I've done that for the last 2 years. And I'm just not ready, like mentally, to get back into a place where like I'm focused solely on tracking every single thing and tracking every single thing that I prep and like tracking every single thing that I eat because I have like mental space that I'm really enjoying right now. And I'm working on other things and focusing on other things that support my happiness. And I've realized that the way that I look doesn't actually make me happier. I may think it does, but it's actually a distraction from the things that truly make me happy, like my relationships with friends and family and like my boyfriend. So like all of these are much richer at this point, and I have a community of people and then also like the vitality community. All of these things are places that I would much rather put my energy and time right now than tracking, and that's okay. And I know that I'm probably not going to be my leanest, but I feel really happy, like, and I'm at peace with that mentally. And that doesn't mean that I will never be doing that again. So, right now, much happier than when I was at my quote unquote dream physique, but I have realized that it's the training that makes me feel really good in my body as opposed to the body fat percentage.
And I would argue you're healthier now too. So there's that too.
There's a lot that I have learned about like internal health, including like what's happening in your mind, in your heart, and like doing things throughout the day. And also like at the time, I think I was waking up at 4 o'clock every single day for like 3 years at that point. Crazy. Nope, I'll sleep in. Today I woke up at 7:40 and was like, oh, I slept a lot later than I had planned to today, but my body clearly needed it, and that's okay. I'll go to the gym tomorrow instead.
And I like that you also noted that like in order to get to that space, like you have to have the mental capacity for it. And I think a lot of women do not have the mental capacity for it right now. And it's like, let's focus on your health and getting you healthy first so that you do have the mental capacity to move forward with that. So there's that. Kariana, how about you?
Okay, so even though I said that I was a gatherer and not a hunter, I've tried all my life to be the opposite, just like from a body type standpoint. So in a past life, I like to call it a past life because I feel like it was so long ago and I was just like such a different person. I did some bikini competitions. So I got like super, super lean, worked really hard on building muscle, which for me, that hard work probably genetically just didn't pay off as much as someone else technically. But I also want to take just like a little bit of a step back from that because I was in a position where, so I was like a kid that was overweight a lot. And so then I developed an eating disorder in high school. And then I went more into like that orthorexic space where I got like, I was known as like, you know, outside of high school and into university, I started going to the gym when I was fairly young. I started working out and then I started eating like extremely healthy. Like I wouldn't eat sugar. I wouldn't eat anything that was processed. Like I was like on the other side of the pendulum, right? And that's kind of, I think, where a lot of people's fitness or health journeys end up going is we're on one side of the pendulum and then we swing all the way to the other side in the extremes. And that was me. The problem was that I still wasn't happy with how I looked and I still didn't feel like that I was super lean or I had that dream physique. And I also felt like, and I think a lot of people and a lot of women listening to this can attest to this, I felt like I was working so hard and getting like no results. I was waking up at 5 a.m. before all of my university classes and going to the gym and working out really hard and trying to eat super clean and like trying to get my protein in and like not snacking and not eating any junk food and not drinking alcohol. And there were all of these things that I was doing and I felt like my body wasn't changing, or I honestly felt like I should look way different than I look with all of that work that I was putting in. It wasn't until after university, I started working, I became a personal trainer and things like that, that I started getting more into the muscle building space and like the bikini competition space. And that was the only time that I ever saw my physique like actually physically change, was when I started putting hours and hours and hours and hours into the gym. Like I'm telling you, like 3 to 4 hours a day, I was in the gym. I was working out. I was doing cardio. Like I had to work so much exponentially harder than I thought that I had to in order to achieve those results that I thought I should have gotten when I was doing 25% of the work. And so I was working so hard to get so lean because my body just naturally, I might be like kind of a more fine boned type of person, I guess. Like I don't gain muscle very well, but I also am not meant to be super lean either, I don't think, right? So it was very hard for me to get to a point where I did have a six pack and I did have like my abs showing, because that's just genetically not where my body ever wants to be. And I felt terrible. I wasn't sleeping. I had no capacity to have a negative emotion at all. Like I specifically remember my day would be determined by if my oatmeal overflowed in the microwave or not, because that was how delicate my emotional capacity was. Like it was bad. It was so bad. I couldn't climb stairs. Like I was winded. I was exhausted. I had migraines all the time. It was not a good space, but did I look lean? Did I look good? Was that my dream physique? Absolutely. But did it feel good? Absolutely not, on any level, in any capacity. And I feel like now I'm in this space where I have gotten significantly less obsessive about the gym. My relationship with food is significantly better, because even though when we're in a space where we think we're quote unquote healthy, once we get out of that and we start to understand that we were on that other side of the pendulum swing, and now that we're in the middle, we can look back and realize that, you know, what we were doing, even when we thought we were healthy, was still obsessive and was actually just as unhealthy as you not even focusing on being healthy at all. It puts into perspective, like what, as Hannah said, like what does bring me joy? What does make me happy? And for me, the gym is, we go like 5 days a week. We work out for like 30 to 40 minutes. That's it. We go and like, it's our stress relief. We do it to just help ourselves feel better. I don't go to specifically build muscle or lose weight anymore. I just go to move my body and feel happy. And like, do I lift heavy? Yes, I try to the capacity that I genetically can, which is still not heavy for a lot of people. Okay. But I'm in this space now where I'm just like Hannah, where there's so many other things, like working with my clients at Vitality and connecting with all of our coaches and connecting with our clients, that bring me so much more joy, that I want to have that emotional capacity and space for, versus me spending 4 hours at the gym in order to be like 5% less body fat and try to get a 6-pack that my body doesn't want to have. So again, when you go through all of those pendulum swings and then end up in the middle eventually, you do start to realize and put into perspective what is really important. And so I hope anyone who's listening to this can look back and understand too that, you know, that number on the scale or how they look or how they feel, you know, you have to decide for yourself what that looks like for you and where the value lies. But I do definitely encourage you to look at like relationships and like, where are you putting your energy in? Because a lot of clients that we talk to are putting 90% of their stress and energy into criticizing the way that they look and not being happy, which is not going to get you anywhere at the end of the day either.
And then Beth, what about you?
All right. So mine's a little bit different in a couple of ways. One with, I started from a space like in high school and college, and it wasn't even physique driven. I ended up having an anorexia for a number of years through high school and college, just starving myself to get thinner, right? And going through that process and in the end, making myself extremely sick, right? Extremely sick, almost to the hospital, had to step in, do a few different things to kind of reclaim some of my health there. And that's kind of a little bit of what Kiana was saying too, where I was just like so far gone on the other side of the pendulum, where I so badly wanted to be so athletic. I was in sports. I wanted to get better. My vision of getting better at that was becoming thinner. I wasn't overweight, so I was thinner from what? You know what I mean? I was probably likely good at where I was. I probably needed to build muscle. But, and as we saw, and as we've seen social media and we've seen news outlets and media, it was all of the rage when I was in high school and college that, you know, you need to be thinner for success, right? As a woman. So that's kind of what I was leaning on to. And I just went so hard into it that I made myself extremely sick. Now getting out of that, and it's taken years and years and years. And guys, I'm still not done. I've been out of college since 2017, and it's been 7 years. I'm still not done, right? Like my switch has been to, what's truly helped me get out of the physique mindset at all. Just not a good place to live, right? Is more focused on performance for me and seeing what my body can do and feeding myself enough that I can participate in these athletic endeavors that I wanted to in the first place, that I can do all of these things that I was trying to do on zero food in the first place. And it's actually paying off now. And ironically, when I'm not focusing on my physique, I'm firing on all cylinders right now, right? I'm able to complete these crazy bike rides. I'm able to, I'm PRing lifts left and right. I'm giving my body enough fuel to be able to do these things. I never thought I'd be this athletic to be able to do the things I'm doing right now. And it's totally turned when we stop hyper focusing on, a physique that we want. And we just focus on feeling good and getting that, you know, being as healthy as we can and firing on all cylinders. These things will come anyways.
So I think the biggest takeaway that you guys should all take from that is like, yes, we all have dream physiques, but for many of us, all of us, it's really hard to maintain. And you have to decide if it's worth it, right? Like, and do you have the capacity to do that mentally right now? And for many of you, you are not. You are exhausted. You're not sleeping. Your energy sucks. Your hormonal symptoms are all over the place. So before we can even get your body to respond and get you to a place where you can be consistent and you don't feel like crap every day, like we need to fix that first. And then we can get you into fat loss. Then your body will respond and you will be happy and you will be healthy. So if you need figuring out, like have no idea where to start and you feel overwhelmed and you don't know if you're ready or what the first steps are to get moving in the right direction, just message me. I'm always happy to help. I'll calculate your calories. I'll give you some rough guidelines on things to focus on. We could talk about what habits to start tracking. We'll go through a full health history with you. I will ask you a bajillion questions. You'll answer them, and I'll probably send you a bajillion more because I want to make sure that I give you the best advice for your specific body. Because as you can see, just from the four of us talking, we all advice is very different for all of us, right? If we were starting over again. So if you need help with that, let me know. Reach out. Please share this with the women in your lives. Love you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.